Team, can I get a quick thumbs up that you're able to see my screen? It says live StrAlign demo, and it has my pal Mark on here with me. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We've got a lot we want to show you today. So hopefully you are here for a StrAlign demo. My name is Molly Yanis, and I am the founder of Echo Consulting and StrAlign. And today we're going to be diving deep into this software that will be available to the general public next week. But for today, I'd like to just quickly introduce my customer success lead, who has been leading our user acceptance testing and some of the great education materials that we'll be putting out over StrAlign over the next couple of weeks. Mark, can you give everyone a wave and a hi?
Hi guys, nice to see you and looking forward to showing you what StrAlign is all about today.
All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. So if you have been following me either as part of Echo Consulting or StrAlign, you will know that we love to talk about a specific problem, which is too many projects fail, and it's frustrating, and we work really hard. I've got a demo, someone needs to go ahead and mute themselves because thank you. All right, so if you've been following us for a while from an Echo Consulting standpoint, you know that we love to talk about the fact that too many projects fail. And specifically, we talk about how a PMO oftentimes can help contribute to that solution. And we talk a lot about this concept of how work is identified, how work is actually delivered and executed on, and how we go ahead and close that out. Now, one of the pieces that we see a lot of clients really struggling with is estimating what the return on investment will be, both from a situation of how much the project is going to cost and effort and all that other good stuff, but also what is it actually going to deliver. So one of the problems that we want to talk about today is specifically about project portfolio management and prioritization of work. So we often come from that perspective of a PMO, but this is not specific only to projects. This is across the board in prioritization, whether this is in your life, whether this is in other work scenarios. I certainly know we've been talking a lot about Maycember in our household. It's the end of the school year and we have about 1 million things going on. So I want to represent really quickly Gartner's perspective on this, which is by 2025, 70% of digital investments will fail to deliver the expected business outcomes. And so they believe that a key component of this is that strategic portfolio management. And well, we tend to agree with them on this. This is not new information, to be honest. So if you look at the PMO and PMI and PMPs, et cetera, you'll know that one of the biggest challenges that companies are facing is how to select the right work, how to focus on that highest priority, highest value work. So when about 3,000 different participants from Fortune 5,000 companies were interviewed and asked the question, what is that biggest challenge you face today when managing your portfolio of projects? They said that project prioritization was one of those key pieces. Now, if you've been in this space at all, you know that resourcing and capacity planning is also a major issue, and we definitely have some ideas on that. Today, we're going to be really focusing on this project prioritization component of how it can be so difficult to know exactly what work you should keep people focusing on. So one of the key components of that prioritization process, we believe, is that gap between the strategy. So these senior leaders, these people that are focusing on more of the macroeconomic, we know that there's a lot going on in the economy right now. Between COVID situation happened, everything that's coming on, certainly the presidential election, new capabilities with AI, there's a lot going on. And you have a senior leadership team, you have decision makers in your organization that are responsible not just for the day-to-day execution, right, but for looking out into the stratosphere and understanding maybe a competitor actually just released a major new functionality and you're behind. Hey, maybe your name is Google, right? Maybe you're in a situation where you're a major car manufacturer and this electric thing is really catching you behind, or you've had a major issue with a recall or something like that. Maybe you're a super small consulting company and you lost a key resource and you lost a key piece of functionality, something like that, right? So we know that there's a lot going on outside of day-to-day. We also know that there's a lot of, burnout, change fatigue, teams that are just really frustrated and feeling like, I think that one of our own Echo Consulting said it really well today, which is like whack-a-mole, right? You're just constantly in a reactive feeling like you're constantly changing. So I don't know if that sounds familiar to all of you, but these are the things that we're talking to with a lot of our clients. So today I want to talk a little bit about Oh, one more slide. Sorry, you got to have a little bit more data. It's not just Molly talking. So which specific elements of project prioritization is most challenging? So we're just going to call out a couple of the PMO ones, right? So the one we're focusing StrAlign on, aligning portfolio projects with the corporate strategy, having strategic goals and actually knowing how those projects are going to impact those strategic goals. But we've spent a lot of time at Echo building out scoring models. Maybe you guys have heard of these project prioritization matrices. Maybe you've seen some of those ones in Excel, trying to figure out how to vote on different things and everything. Really the ability to do multiple scenarios. This is something we're seeing a lot of in the PMO space, but across the organization as we look at annual planning, as organizations unfortunately are looking at cuts or major growth initiatives. You know, how do you look at different scenarios as you're looking at a business transformation initiative? And honestly, one of the things that's honestly near and dear to my heart, how do you kill projects? Either projects that are already approved and maybe wasting resources and are already failing, or frankly, say no to some projects that maybe a major stakeholder that is a hippo in the room that really wants this project, right? And then honestly, how do we track the value of project and the data going forward? So today, I want to get into the software as quickly as possible. We're going to be talking about StrAlign, helping organizations bridge the gap between their strategic goals, their ideas and innovation, and the awesome people that they have part of their team that want to contribute their ideas and the processes that are really failing, these people that are closest to their customer experience, the people that are closest to these challenges you're facing, and really how that works with a project prioritization process. So the solution. When you think about strategy, strategic goals, this is oftentimes a process that organizations go through more in a 2 to 3 year period, right? What are those major strategic initiatives that you have ongoing? Maybe it's the release of a new product. Maybe it's the expansion into a new market or, a new continent, for example. One of our clients is going to Europe. But then also, right, like those strategic goals and how you're actually sharing those with the individuals on your team so that they can interact.
Mark, I see you looking curious. Did we lose her?
All right, guys. Well, that was fun. I hope I'm back now. That was fun. I mean, I thought of a lot of things that might go wrong today, but honestly, completely being dropped wasn't top of my list. So are you guys still seeing my screen, the solution? Because I was kind of on a roll. Y'all wanted a break, right? Molly was going a little fast. So here we go. Strategy. What are those strategic goals of your organization, right? What is your process for translating that strategy into action and getting that into the hands of your awesome subject matter experts and team members? And so StrAlign is a strategic decision-making tool and a project prioritization software. And today we are so excited to share the software with you. It's been a long time coming. So when we think about StrAlign, we think about kind of 2 key pieces of data that we want to converge, right? So we want that top-down strategy, goals, vision, what's going on in the world view to come from what we call our leaders, decision makers. Whether this is C-suite, we've also seen this people used directly in a marketing team, right? So who the leaders are depends on the scenario that you're really looking at. But we talk about leaders, and what leaders are really good at is providing that strategy, that vision, those goals. What we need to make sure is that we're actually allowing other people other than the leaders to interact with it and provide feedback on how individual solutions, whether that's an idea, a project, honestly, a product, anything like that, is going to impact those strategic goals. So what we're looking to do, and we call them in the app team members. We'll talk a little bit more about the different roles, but we have the leaders that have the strategic vision and the goals and are setting the forward projection for the company. And then we have the team members that for some organization might just be your subject matter experts. We're seeing one organization just use it with their leaders being their C-suite and all of their managers and VPs being team members. But these are the people that are bringing forward new ideas and are close to understanding how those ideas might impact the strategic goals. And where the magic comes, we call it an algorithm. Don't get too concerned. Really what we're looking to do is be able to see where these converge in different ways. So we're looking to overlay individual user votes and perspectives with the user weighting, understanding that sometimes some votes do count more than others. It's not a complete democracy, but we'll show you a little bit more about that today. And then also the ability to really narrow the scope down, which says, hey, when something like a major new contract comes in, maybe we're transitioning from customer acquisition activities to customer success criteria and things like that. So understanding that goals, while they may exist at all times, they may change in priority or weight themselves over time. So we're going to show you how that plays in to dynamic prioritization, but also the ability to scenario plan. So sorry, I won't get too far ahead of myself. So core use cases for StrAlign that we're seeing right now, right? Annual planning and budgeting planning is coming up for a lot of organizations as we head into fiscal year 24. We're also unfortunately seeing several of our clients looking at cuts. And also as you think about strategic planning, major pivots as things are happening, especially in the tech market, right? PMO, PPM, really this understanding of work prioritization across departments, across organizations, having better visibility for leadership there. And we've even seen this used in kind of a workshop decision-making facilitation. So we're really excited about some of these use cases. Before I dive into this, I'm going to actually go directly in, Mark, to you, and we'll kind of just get into the software for a second, okay? So the 3 different roles we're going to be demoing today as a team member, and Mark's going to go help and how to help with me. Go ahead and help me with that. Then we're going to go into the leader view, and then at the end, we'll just talk a little bit about the administration and how it can be tailored to each different organization. With that, Mark, I'm going to stop, and if you can go ahead and dive in, and we'll go from there.
I certainly will. Okay, so I'll just switch in to my screen.
Guys, we didn't talk too much about webinar best practice and things like that, but in case you couldn't tell, I'm the question queen. So if you do have any clarifying questions you would like to add throughout the webinar, you are welcome to do so via chat. You are welcome to raise your hand, or frankly, if I'm talking, you can certainly interrupt me and ask any questions you would like. Mark, I'm waiting for you to go ahead and share when you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome to StrAlign. So on the screen is what you would be greeted with if you're a team member. So as a team member, as I log into StrAlign, I can see the impact that I'm having. So this is really cool because it really improves the transparency within an organization. So first of all, at the top of the screen, I can see that I've submitted 3 new ideas for the organization to consider. I can see that one of those ideas have been promoted to an opportunity already. So I'm seeing that impact. And I can also see that I've made 19 comparisons and 8 ratings, which I'll explain a little bit more in a second. If I scroll down the homepage as well, I can see the rankings of all the ideas, opportunities, and projects that have been that are in the system at the moment. So an item starts life as an idea, so I can go ahead up here at the top, and if I want to, I can add a new idea. So in adding an idea, obviously give it so I'm thinking I'm a new member of the team, and I see that some on-demand training for onboarding would be good for staff. So that's my little idea as a new employee. I'm going to put some information here. So online academy.
But Mark, wait. You just typed in on-demand training for onboarding. What's showing up on the right-hand side? What are those related items?
So these are related items. So I can see that, oh my goodness, gosh, someone has already put a similar idea here. So I could either decide like, oh, actually that's the same idea as I've got, I'm not going to put it in, or maybe I might decide it's similar but not the same, and I can link that idea if I wanted to. Okay, so I can add those ideas. I can link it to different departments or all departments if it's going to impact different departments across the way. And then when I submit the idea, people can actually go and vote on it. One of the things that I find really great about this is, as a team member, we're aware we've got these strategic goals in the organization. Well, those goals are actually in StrAlign as well, because that's the whole one of the main points of StrAlign, that it is about strategic alignment. So I can check what these goals are at any point in time. I can have a look at the further information about those goals to make sure I know what the organization's about. And then as a team player, after I've added an idea, I can also check the rankings, and this is not just the top 10, the total rankings. And as you can see, we've got changes in there, so we can see that implement a company intranet site has changed and gone up 14 places over the last few days. Okay.
So the point of that, right, is that as we do the next step that Mark's about to show us, as individuals not only add ideas, not only see their goals, not only see these ideas and project priorities and things like that, they're actually going to get to contribute to them. And they're going to get to be able to actually vote and provide their input. Where StrAlign is very different than other idea management tools, if you are using one, is that rather than upvote or favorite or like just vote saying, hey, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, what can you do, Mark?
We can compare them. So if I click into compare, what it's doing in the background is just going to get all the ideas. So it's asking me, based against this goal, so increase profit, which one of these two do I think is going to have the most impact on that goal? So and again, I've got the option here. If I don't think I've got enough information about this, I can skip this comparison. But in this case, I am thinking that from my perspective in customer success management, like create YouTube social media account would have an impact on increased profits. So I'm going to click that one. And as I'm going through these, not only is it taking this information, feeding it into the algorithm to change those rankings dynamically, it's also keeping a record so I know what impact this has had on what impact I'm making. So again, I can keep on going through. So the idea is that as a team member, I can just log in here. Maybe this is the first thing I do for 5 minutes every morning, and I can just contribute and make an impact while I'm having that morning coffee. And all this information is being used by the algorithm to make our decisions even better. So that's the comparison part of StrAlign, that I can contribute as a team member and make those contributions. If I go back to the top page now, we can see the comparisons have changed up here, which allows me to see what impact I'm making. And then I can go into the ratings. So ratings a little bit more different. I can go into a specific idea or project or opportunity, and then I can rate that. So as you can see on the bottom, I can view this to see some more information about the objective, about the idea or project or opportunity, but I can also rate it at the bottom. So here I can rate it on whether it's going to make a positive impact, a negative impact, or it's not going to make an impact. So I can move this along the line here, and I can save those contributions. And again, this is going straight into that algorithm to change those ratings in dynamically as I rate these. Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and take over, Mark, if that's okay, and give a little bit more perspective from the strategic planning and decision-making side, and we can keep talking a little bit about what team members can do as well. So you may be familiar with what Mark just showed, but my dashboard, I'm now logged in as a leader. I'm a decision maker. And so I got a couple other things up my sleeve that I can go ahead and do. So one, I can see that we've got some changes happening as usual, right? So as people vote, we're seeing that the prioritization changes. I do happen to know that because as an admin, you're right, you have the ability to say when those changes update and things like that. But for right now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about goals and about scenarios. So the first thing is that when Mark was talking about goals, right, he was talking about these 5 goals. They probably came from a slide. Maybe they were updated every year or so, right? But maybe we have a new goal that we want to go ahead and enter. We can put information about what would be a great goal, right? Let's see here, Mark. I should have had this off the top of my head, but let's say establish partnerships or expand
Expand to
into
the UK.
new markets. You want to go to the UK. I got it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and add the goal. Oh, wait, I do have to do this. So expand, no big deal. So we're going to go ahead and add a new goal here. I can see expand into new markets, right? Now, I can still see the rankings. I can still see compare. I can still rate, same things that individuals can do. If I go home, I can still add ideas and things like that. But I've got two other functionalities, and this is where I feel like StrAlign is really magic. I've been struggling for years in the project management, portfolio management space about scenario planning and just looking at different options. So I'm going to go in here into scenario plans, and I'm going to see that there's already some scenarios here. So if I wanted to, right, I could go into one of these scenarios and see how they've ranked some different goals and things like that. And then I could choose, you know what, I kind of like this one, but I want to duplicate it and add a new one. Or I can go ahead and create a scenario from scratch. Now, what is a scenario? A scenario in the case of StrAlign is a subset of goals and a weighting of a specific subset of goals. So in this case, I really want to do a profit forward example. So I'm really going to be focusing on the increase in profit, right? Improve customer satisfaction. I want to make sure that we have retention. And maybe I think that we're going to go ahead and expand solution offerings. But right now, I'm not really focused on, our team members. Don't tell my team members, it's a horrible thing to say. But anyways, here I am. I'm going to do a profit forward example, right? Here I go. I'm going to go ahead and choose whether it's shared or private. Shared, I'm sure you're shocked to know that that means that other leaders in your organization would be able to see your scenario. Private means it's going to stay with you. Maybe I want to collaborate with someone else as well, so I can go ahead and add leader Mark into it as well, or add myself, for example. So Molly lead, here I am. And then here, I'm going to be able to go ahead and change the weight. So you know what? Increasing profit, that's 80% of my focus right now. And 15% is on customer satisfaction. And maybe that 5% for solution offerings. So I know it's good for PR and gets our salespeople excited. I want to make sure that's shared. And I'm going to go ahead and create the new scenario here. Okay. Now, I want to be able to see the different scenarios and see how different people weight. So the default batch, the default priorities are based on this. So what Mark gets to see in his rankings based on the dynamic prioritization is based on a default priority batch or a default scenario. And this is the default, and that's always going to show up in this compare screen. But if I want to look and say, okay, I really wanted this profit forward one, for example, or I really want to focus one growth focused, I think, right? I want to go ahead and pull a couple of different scenarios in to see, oh, okay, what does a recession one look like versus a growth focused scenario? Okay. But where I absolutely love is actually the scenario planning, because now what I'm doing is I'm taking these different scenarios that I've developed with different sets of goals and different percentages for what those goals mean and like weights and things like that. And I can actually see how those impact the position ranking and things like that. Now, it would be really great if it was showing up right now, but for right now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that that would normally show up, and I will show just a really quick example of this working earlier today. But the concept here with scenario planning, right, is that depending on if I'm looking at a recession or a growth focused one, the differences in how a project priority would change. The other piece of this, which I believe is working, and I'll come back here, is I can filter it. And I think this was a question that maybe someone just asked. I didn't read the whole question. But really what we can say is like, okay, we can just look at only projects, for example, and see how that would work if it was only selected. And I do have a slide just to bring us back. I think I skipped it because I got a little thrown off by the slide that popped up there. But one of the pieces about StrAlign that we're really excited about, right, is this gamification concept and this unlocking of new fields depending on where the the idea is in kind of the progression of its life cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and just share this slide for a second. So there's basically 3 components of a life cycle when we think about like new projects, new features, new ideas that are coming in. For the initial idea, we actually only allow 100 characters in the title of the idea and about 350 characters in the description. There's very limited information, and there's a specific reason for that, right? We really want to narrow down what that idea is, what that challenge is, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on building out a complex business case or put a whole bunch of barriers to entry and getting some of these ideas in. But what we do want to do, and Mark touched on, but maybe not quite enough in my opinion, which is we've had so many scenarios where organizations have been doing an ideation, idea management, and you have 200 ideas that come in and 20 of them are all related. So as we were building StrAlign, we really wanted to focus on the fact that there could be a new idea that's related to an existing project. There could be 2 ideas that are very similar, and they're different ways to solve the same problem. So you'll see that in StrAlign, we really focus on limiting what you can put for an idea and then defining what traction means. And traction is driven by how many votes it gets, how many times it gets ranked higher than a different idea or a different project. It's how it gets ranked and things like that. As it gains traction, it gets unlocked into an opportunity and new fields become available. If you'll notice
Molly,
during our, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yep.
I was just going to say, like, the important thing to emphasize there as well is the fact we're ranking and comparing it against the strategic goals. So we're always making sure that we're tracking it against something that we've agreed are important for our organization moving forward. So we're not just.
So you don't think that changing our logo to purple and pink polka dotted is a high priority? It probably wouldn't get promoted to be to an opportunity. Is that what you're saying, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. There's always a data quality issue, right? When we're asking people for ideas, but one of the ways that we're trying to help solve is really the ability to relate ideas and be able to see how different ideas and opportunities and everything like that might be solving similar problems and try to avoid duplicates when possible. As it moves to an opportunity, new fields are unlocked. You'll see these are pretty standard business case fields, right? And this is where we are really excited to start integrating with some of the other PPM platforms and things like that. But you'll notice that it can be a standalone solution, StrAlign, so ideas, opportunities, and then eventually to projects. So as we think about the leader perspective, the algorithm in StrAlign, we can talk a little bit more about that in a second, automatically promotes something from an idea to an opportunity. And when that happens, the person that actually owns that idea gets notified that something has become. So I can see that in this case, something has become an opportunity, or I've been added as a contributor to an opportunity. Now, what's really nice about that is with an idea, whenever you're doing comparisons, you actually never know who the person is that submitted that idea. And that was on purpose, to be honest. We don't want certain people to get popularity contests, always pick that. But the other piece is that once it becomes an opportunity and I can unlock additional fields and edit and add some additional information, I am able to start adding the sponsor, adding other contributors and pieces like that, in addition to linking and unlinking other ideas and related components as I'm coming through. We also have the ability to do, some fun stuff, files, links, and all that other good stuff. Probably pretty familiar with that if you're used to technology in this space. So let's see here. Mark, maybe we jump in really quickly into the admin functionality for configuration if we can.
For sure. So let me just take control.
Are there any questions? I just had one question, Will, from you, balancing resources across. StrAlign is focused on strategic alignment and really gathering the data between idea management and strategic alignment and strategic goals as well as projects. We are assuming that strategic goals exist. We certainly are doing some resources associated with, very common strategic goals and things like that. Some of our clients have very great trail maps and strategic plans and things like that. And it would be very easy for enter in here in admin. And I think Mark's going to talk about that for a second. Some don't have those strategic goals or might want to use it for a marketing team or something like that. When does an opportunity move to a project? So we'll talk about that in just 1 second, Rachel. That's a great question. So and I completely lost my train of thought. But what I would say is that, you know what? I completely lost my train of thought. So what I'm going to say is respond to Rachel's response, which is in an idea can become an opportunity, and Mark can actually show you how we can configure that on to show kind of when an idea becomes an opportunity. When an opportunity becomes a project, by our definition of project, a project is an approved item to move forward with, and so that is a manual promotion right now, and we'll show you how to do that in just a moment, Rachel. Currently, both admins as well as leaders are able to move to a project, and then Rachel, I think for you guys do use Smartsheet, so that will also be able to be done via integration as well. I'll stop now, Mark, and let you go ahead.
Okay, so the next level up from being a leader is an admin. So this just allows you to, well, first of all, invite all your users. So we can invite users via email, and we can import them via a CSV file. We can also import items, so projects, opportunities, and ideas that we already know about. So we can already populate that ahead of time. And then we can invite our users so they can see the impact they're making, and also make an impact by doing those comparisons we showed you earlier and the ratings. We can also change some settings. So for example, we can configure user weighting. So we can change the weighting that certain users have within the system. So for example, we might want leaders to have a higher weighting than a normal team member. We might want admins to have an even higher weighting or a less weighting, because actually admins within our organizations are look after our tech systems and so forth. So we can change those weightings, and that has an impact on how their ratings and comparisons impact the overall algorithm, and whether things change from ideas to opportunities to projects. We can also change what items we compare. So if we just wanted to compare projects, we can just select projects to compare. If we want to select ideas, opportunities, and projects against each other, we can do that also. So there's a lot of flexibility there. The same sort of situation for a rating. We can just choose to rate projects or rate both. Okay.
Great question
also,
from Josh. Yes, single
yep.
sign-on. We're starting with Microsoft and Smartsheet, Josh, but we're going to have the ability, if you can support one, you can support the rest in an easy way. The other piece I just want to call out a little bit more about what Mark was just saying. So the idea is to be shown in comparison. We've seen organizations that only want to compare, for example, ideas and opportunities, so before something gets approved. So while we're certainly providing the solution, trying to indicate that sometimes new ideas and opportunities might be a higher priority than existing approved projects, we're certainly not forcing on that. So if you really wanted to only be comparing things that are not approved projects, you can certainly do that within this tool. Josh, is that okay? Single sign-on? Yes, we are going to be doing single sign-on. I believe Microsoft will be delivered in early July.
Right. The other little things in settings are just, we can create new departments in there, and the whole idea is we want to encourage people to use this system. We want them to use it as part of their daily or weekly tasks. So we can also set up in the back end as admins reminder emails if they haven't logged in for a number of days, just to push them into contributing by comparing ideas and rating those ideas. And if they haven't activated their accounts after we've sent them the login details, we can send reminder emails there as well. Going back to the question about how we can rank, how we can
change the
promote,
rank.
change a rank and so on. When we click on here, if you're a leader or if you're an admin, you've got the opportunity here to edit the priority or edit the rank or promote it manually. So we can always override it. So, there's going to be those ideas that we we just know our ideas, we need to move forward. You know, we don't want to wait for the algorithm to catch up. We want to promote that straight away for opportunity, so we can assign people to it, and we can quickly do that by selecting how we promote that. We can also edit the priority here, so we can put more details in it, and also we can manually assign a rank to it if we wanted to. So there's a power to override anything in the back end that we want to as leaders, if we so decide.
So a good example for that is we certainly have organizations that are struggling with some compliance items or legal items that you're never going to get marketing or sales or someone else to say that that's the #1 priority. So we do have the ability to go ahead as an admin and right now as a leader to go in and actually create a default rank for an item so that it will stay at #3 or #2 or #5 or something like that. So there's a couple different ways. The way that we have is like as a pure manual, like, hey, this is going to show up as #5 no matter who votes for it one way or another. But there's some other ways that are a little bit less intense than that as well. So yes, we can override. The point of StrAlign not just is to be able to have like this data driven, the scenario planning, right? But it's like actually getting people in, and when they're going ahead and sharing their ideas and their ideas for innovation and things like that, we want them to, one, know that it's in the context of the strategic goals of the organization. We want to know that their vote counts, and we want them to see that things change and that change is actually a core competency in business today, but change is actually normal and an expected thing, and nothing changing. So one of the things we talked a lot about is just this, a lot of different biases, a lot of different decision science and everything went into the building of StrAlign. Humans are really bad at looking at 20 different things and saying, hey, this is the rank of 1 to 20. And as soon as they walk out the door of those big, long prioritization meetings, guess what? Something's changed. Someone's vote didn't count. There's a new idea. So really what the goal with StrAlign is to be able to help organizations move towards that dynamic prioritization, that data-driven component. It doesn't replace the need for decision making and that your decision makers have human context and things like that. We're looking to put the right information into their hands so that those prioritization conversations move more towards that scenario planning piece, which is, hey, we really know that, profitability was a core piece, but at this point, it's really like, retention at this point of our team, or it's really stabilization, or, hey, we were really excited about this new product release, but something major just happened and we need to get back, pivot it to our core business model. So we understand and we want to be able to put that power into the leaders' teams to really understand, hey, if we need to focus on the recession, what does that look like? If we really have this major opportunity for growth, like we're going to focus on this. These are the priorities we would be looking at. I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions or ideas. And if not, I can certainly start talking more about different scenarios. But
Hey, Molly, this is Will.
Hi, Will.
Hey, so I'm sitting here looking at this and it looks really powerful and awesome, but I'm thinking about the episodic nature of strategic planning, right? And coming from an EOS organization and doing major prioritization effort at a quarterly basis, and then thinking, if I've layered this on here, how do I get really pragmatic about what its results are if I'm looking at it daily, right? Because now I'm in a different mode of, we come out of a quarterly meeting, we set priorities and rocks, and everybody's rolling forward. And so there's not this view back to, wait, did the priorities change? So I'm not saying that I'm looking for it in StrAlign as a solution, but what's your thoughts on how it operationalizes to that dynamic nature of strategy?
Yeah, that balance between keeping the team focused, right, on that forward-facing vision that you set for your quarterly. We actually have an organization that is on EOS that was one of our pilots, right? And so absolutely, they were using it in both their kind of annual planning, strategic planning exercise, right? But they're using it only for ideas and opportunities as the rocks that are required that they provide in their, I think, monthly and quarterly cadence and things like that, but they're keeping it separate from their projects and approved KPIs and things like that that are moving forward. So understanding, if you think about sprint planning, if you think about kind of like SAFe and things like some of those components, right? It's that, all right, we have locked down what the next quarter looks like unless there's a major event that really interrupts that. And instead using this as the understanding kind of like what's coming up next and things like that. So we've seen it used a couple of different ways, Will, but yeah, that's definitely one of the questions I have too, in terms of what is that transition between that system of record, as it were, right? Once it becomes a project, or I'm under the core belief that we should be evaluating existing in-process work alongside potential work that hasn't been approved yet, because what I've seen is too many projects, too many initiatives keep going because there's approved budget on them or because that person has the budget, and not killing that project fast enough. So for me, I love the fact that StrAlign allows you to do both, but we did build in that configuration because of the fact that some organizations like, okay, great, this is great for strategic alignment of idea management, innovation management, but yes, once we've allocated and moved for the next quarter, we don't want to touch that, because we don't want the team to feel like, you know, the changing. The other configuration, Will, that is helpful is you can actually freeze when the prioritization, that change piece. Let me bring it back to that screen really quick. You can choose, for example, how many how often those priorities change, if it made sense. So like if you wanted to, from a quarterly basis, for example, you would be able to say, okay, I'm not going to change the previous ranking for a quarter or for a month or for something like that. It's not something that I want to see every single day. So that is something as well. Does that answer your question, or it opens more questions?
Well, it does lead to one important question, I think, because the way that you were describing that sort of, it is a pocket of using it for this purpose, and over here it's a different one. So then the next question is, can you sort of multi-thread it in the sense of, I could easily see our organization using it like your other pilot was in quarterly sessions, but then as the LT facilitator myself, I'm thinking, oh, I just want this ongoing. So every, level 10 weekly meeting, we're revisiting this as part of the scorecard and looking at it and seeing if anything needs to be calibrated outside of our last quarterly. But then I can also see that it could be useful for, let's say we've got a major product strategic initiative that inside of its already established, agile processes needs to be slicing and dicing priorities within that project. So the question, I guess, is, can we do both of those things at once?
Yeah, so the two different ones you're talking about. So one we call multi-scenario. So we have this for one of our clients that has 5 different departments within marketing, and they each have their own KPIs, right? And then they have OKRs as an entire organization in their case. So they actually have their own set of goals, right, that are specific, and projects that are in there. And then they have one that's all together across all 5, and they actually use it separately. So on the roadmap for StrAlign is what we call multi-tier, which is the ability to automatically promote from one, what we call organization or solution, into another. So for example, something could start in finance, right, but then move up to the next level because it's a cross project. So that's definitely something we've had to build in other PMOs, right, like that hierarchy, and in some of the annual planning we've done as well. They want to be able to collaborate and look at ideas only within a specific department, for example, first. And so that's definitely something that we're looking at as well. So
that's awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions or anything along those lines? All righty. So I'll just do a quick refresher, and then we'll talk next steps, and you'll get an email shortly. But let me go ahead and share one more screen. Thank you all for being here today. So at this point, oh, I can't get there right now. I'm just going to go to how it works really quick. All right, guys, let me go ahead and share my screen still. All right, so today we talked a little bit more about StrAlign, strategic alignment, and project prioritization. So for this specific software, we are looking at it as that bridging that gap between the strategy, the strategic goals that we expect to be set by the leadership, by the decision makers in the organization, whether that organization is an individual department like marketing, whether that organization is the senior leadership of a multinational company and it's the C-suite and their VPs. But there's some sort of strategic goal component of this. There are ideas, there are projects, opportunities, however you define those. They are gamified in terms of how they go ahead and get promoted throughout using an algorithm. You do have the ability to, within the application, create scenarios that are based on a series of user votes that happen via comparison and rating, as well as you can set user weights. One of the things we didn't show today, Mark, is that you can override user weight by individual. So we showed you kind of in some of the settings that we can say, okay, all team members are 10 and all leaders are 20, but we can actually say, oh, hey, you know what? This architect is actually going to be a 23 because he's amazing and he knows exactly what this is. So we can really tweak that down all the way to the individual user. And then the scenarios that we talked a little bit about today, right? The ability to set a subset of goals and be able to weight those differently, change those over time, and see how those priorities shift. And then even within those shifting priorities, you are able to filter down and, for example, only look at ideas and opportunities if you wanted to. One of the things that we're really excited about is that kind of comparison between how, for example, finance might look at the different projects on there versus our marketing and our sales teams or our operations and warehouse. So for every organization size, right, we're looking at how are they going ahead and looking at the different scenarios of what they think is most important at this exact moment. So right now, guys, for today, by attending this webinar, our first inaugural public demo, we will announce we are going to be pushing the software live on June 1st. That is a week from today, in case you weren't sure. It is going to be available for free sign up from our website, StrAlign.com. I'll bring you there in a second. You're all going to receive this recording if you're interested, as well as a couple of great pieces that we put together on this. And I'm just going to go to StrAlign really quickly.com. You can go ahead and subscribe for updates if you're interested. And yeah, oh, sorry, Amanda already put it in there. Thank you. So you'll go ahead and be able to see things as they are released. But we are excited you can find some of our frequently asked questions. You're able to schedule an individual demo. So you've met Mark, you've met me quickly. We are going to be doing individual configuration demos for kind of the free trials as we try these out. And so we're excited to talk to you if you are interested in strategic alignment within your organization. And because we are a fresh, brand new SaaS software going live, we are looking for feedback, for questions, for breaking it, for scenarios of how you guys are going to, how you use this, how you already have this set up in your own environment, things like that. So sharing is caring. We will be including a survey in there, both from a demo perspective and kind of what you were expecting to see versus what we actually showed. But we're also going to be asking for any feedback, questions, features, and things like that. Starting in June and going forward, we will be doing a product roadmap and product release as well, so that you know the new features and functionality that are coming. And that's it for me right now.
Nice work, Molly. Enthusiastic as ever with your baby. And I mean, one thing I just want to mention is how excited I am how organizations can use this for cultural change and to make things more transparent within their organization, and make it like I felt my opportunities were having an impact on the organization. So I'm looking forward to see how organizations are going to use StrAlign and supporting you in using StrAlign. So nice to see you all here today.